Worse than that, I did notice someone 3 seats away wearing a t-shirt that's known as a transphobic dog whistle, and because I get so much hate online as a trans activist, I did fall into an immediate panic. My heart was racing, I was cold, I was sweaty, and it actually really ruined my experience. I didn't feel great for the rest of the flight, but Sharon, who was part of the cabin crew, did check in on me, and things get worse after we land.
Oxford Languages defines persecution complex as being an irrational and obsessive feeling or fear that one is the object of collective hostility or ill treatment on the part of others. In the past, the example one might have given would have been of someone afraid that the government was watching them, or that their mail was being read and resealed, or that the Starbucks person was intentionally making their drinks wrong every single time. Today, the most relevant example can be seen in the trans community, which relies on feelings of persecution to ensure that those within remain unwilling to interact with those who disagree with them, potentially leading to a divestment from the community altogether.
Now, I was talking to a detransitioner on this app, and after watching her video, I literally commented and just said, it seems like you couldn't handle being a trans man because of the new insecurities that it brought on for you. And I said, but that's okay. But after I said that, she starts going in on me saying, handle what? You're never going to really be a man. You're never going to be a man. And those surgeries don't help. They're not worth it. And you need to be happy in the body that you were born in and all this other stuff. She talking about you're just going to look like a man. That's it. But you're not going to be a man. But the thing is, we live in a society where you look the part. And especially if you identify as the part, you are the part. Let's be fucking for real. You're not going to tell me I'm not going to be a man just because it wasn't worth it for you. Don't go spewing your transphobic rhetoric just because you detransition. You're not trans. So, of course, the surgeries and being on T isn't worth it for you. You're talking about it's not healthy in the long run. Baby, I looked it up, and it's nothing that I ain't heard before. I'm going to be all right. This is how I want to live this is what I want. You want to live your life like that, that's fine. But don't go spewing that transphobic rhetoric and try to tear me down. You're doing too much.
After all, if it turns out that those who oppose you don't actually hate you, you might be willing to listen to their arguments, and, of course, detransitioning, or tossing out that collection of pride-themed merch, which isn't very beneficial to those who profit off of the hatred of one's body. In consideration of the history of the word hysterical, I wouldn't use that to describe these individuals, but certainly neurotic, deranged, or raving will suffice. There has never been a hate crime committed by a radical feminist against a trans-identified person, and by which I mean an actual act of violence, not the redefined version wherein calling a man on Twitter gets you arrested.
Here's my vulnerable hot take of the day, 5 minutes before I had to see a client. I moved to Chicago a year ago this month, and I lived in Brooklyn, New York, for 15 years, like plus, on and off before that. And listen, I don't expect every stranger to understand the nuance of like what it means to be a non-binary trans-masc person. Like stranger, I mean like an Uber driver or a barista or a waitstaff person. But like, I have never in my life been called like lady or miss so much in the past like 365 days. And it is so cuckoo bananas. And like, that is the nice way of me saying it. It is so fucked up. It is so crazy. Again, I don't expect people to understand what it means to be non-binary. I don't expect people to know that my pronouns are they, them. I don't expect that, right? I'm not plastering it. Although I dress very masculinely. I have a masculine haircut, whatever that means. Yes, I have a very feminine voice. I'm not on testosterone. I do have top surgery. I think it's very fucking weird when I'm at a pool or at a beach or somewhere where there is like service folk and my top is off and I'm with my partner, my girlfriend, who is a cis woman, and we get called ladies. I think that's fucking weird. I think that's fucking weird. I think that's fucking weird. I think that's fucking crazy. So, I mean, that happened in Miami, but it's also happened here. I think it's fucking weird. I think it's fucking crazy. What is going on? Yes, I have a very feminine voice, and it is my choice to not go on testosterone. It is my fucking choice. Happy Pride. Happy Pride.
In fact, despite claims of violence and danger, actual hate crimes have only ever been committed by trans-identified people against women. Take, for instance, the bug attack earlier this year, the assault of Fred Sargent, and the many, many women physically assaulted for not lying about reality. And yet, a persecution complex persists. Trans-identified males claim that they are in danger of violence by going to the men's room, even though many of these men are very obviously male, regardless of their feminine trappings, and thus unlikely to be targeted for harassment. Furthermore, a universal experience as a woman is to have to limit yourself to avoid danger, such as not drinking heavily when alone, not walking alone at night, or not traveling to certain areas. Ergo, it should be an affirming experience to have to avoid the bathroom if the danger really is so prevalent. Of course, few seem to be actually scared of using their correctly sexed bathroom and instead seek access to women's spaces for their own sexual entertainment or validation. Others break down in tears and bouts of unnecessary emotionalism as they interpret a lack of faith in their gender identity as an act of persecution. As if a person correctly identifying their sex is the same thing as being driven from their homes and into camps. But, of course, many love to make that exact comparison. We've been hearing for years now about how the trans genocide is going on, and now we're in stage 7, usually in response to laws preventing minors from having puberty blockers, HRT, or undergoing unnecessary cosmetic surgeries.
My name is Layla Jane. I'm 18 years old, and I am a woman who has detransitioned. I am actively suing Kaiser Permanente, and I'm suing the doctors that gave me those treatments related to my transition.
I think you're one of the youngest detransitioners other than myself that I know of, and you actually started transitioning a year earlier than I did, and 2 years before I got my mastectomy. You were 12 when you started taking testosterone blockers, right?
Yeah.
Were you on blockers?
Initially, yeah, they started me on Lupron, and then they put me on testosterone.
You got your mastectomy at 13, just a few years after you started puberty. And that makes me upset personally. How do you feel about that? What's it like dealing with that?
It's very conflicting, but honestly, I'm very upset that it was done to me so young, and also, not to mention, in a headspace where I just shouldn't have been able to make those kind of decisions. You know, I actually had never seen like a diagram of like a breast and like the organ and like the lactation like organs, like the glands and all that, until really recently I saw a diagram. They never showed anything like that to me, and they really watered it down and just called it top surgery, not a radical,
Not a double mastectomy.
Double mastectomy, what it was, right?
Preventing medical malpractice is not persecution. Preventing children and teens from sterilization and brain growth stunting is not persecution. Not playing along with delusions that if you really, really want something, it becomes real is not persecution.
Next time a cis woman gets targeted by transphobes, can we skip the part where we're like, she's a biological female, she's a woman, she's not trans? Because trans women are biologically female, we are biologically women. Second, it misses...
And certainly, choosing to become a public figure or harassing women and thus receiving attention for it is not persecution.
Whenever I see you, you're so positive, right? But it's probably been a really difficult week for you with everything that's happened online. Could you just kind of briefly explain what has happened?
A Pride organisation put a tweet out. They posted what was a positive piece, but it was a real old photo, and I like to feel I've progressed a little bit as a person since then. It was picked up then by some gender critical people, some that have got really, massive millions and millions of followers. They decided to then attack me.
One of the the very high profile people who kind of attack you online is J.K. Rowling, and that tweet got a lot of views and a lot of attention. You tweeted a Dumbledore quote, so I'm just going to read it. It says, "You fail to recognise that it matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be." Albus Dumbledore. What does that mean to you, that quote?
Transgender people, it doesn't matter what gender we're born in, it's how we go and live our lives and what we grow into be. For me, that line is just fabulous. I don't want to reply to her personally. Well, say come from Dumbledore's mouth. You know, she's the one that wrote them to put them there in the first place, and I just thought it's such an iconic line. I resonate with everything that line says.
This, dear viewers, is where we part. This one's a little bit shorter than usual, simply because I was on Tumblr scrolling, as one does, because I'm very, very smart and decided to spend the least amount of money on food as possible so I could try to get some savings, because this year has just hated me with savings. Anyway, I got food poisoning and it was awful, so I've been at home for 2 days. And there's nothing else I can do besides be on the computer, which I was going to do at work anyway. Anyhow, scrolling through Tumblr, and I see this video of a tiff being so upset that she saw a woman on a plane with a shirt that said woman, adult, human, female. She wasn't even thinking about you. Someone wearing a shirt that you don't agree with is not making you unsafe, and God, how do I hate that word, unsafe. I feel unsafe. No, you don't. You don't feel threatened. You just feel like someone doesn't like you. You feel like you're not getting your way. You're having a tantrum. And that's something that, most adults grow out of. Most people leave that behind in like adolescence at the latest. I don't really have any sympathy for it. Personally, I understand that anxiety exists. I understand that it's difficult to deal with. But come on now. As an adult, you should be able to modulate your response to things like this. You should at least be working towards it and understand that your emotional reaction is no one else's problem but your own. And especially in this case where it's, oh no, a t-shirt I don't like. God, you would hate my dad. You would hate all the white guys I know down in southern Georgia who wear shirts that are like political and have things on it that are way, way, way worse. When I was in high school, I had to watch a lot of guys wear those porn shirts. What was it called? Ahegao shirts, where they have little anime girls on them with the porn face. It made me super uncomfortable, and I hated it. But you know what? I just ignored them. I didn't interact with those boys, and I did let a teacher know that those were sexual content, and I moved on with my life. Unfortunately, reacting to things normally or with maturity is not a very common response anymore. I'm 23 and I feel ancient sometimes with how some people act in comparison. Maybe I should self-identify as 65 and I can retire and stop watching these videos. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.